So what's happening in Nicaragua, right? Some people have seen reports, 38 people are dead. There's been some fighting in the streets. What's going on in Nicaragua? Well, let's back up a little bit, all right? So Nicaragua is in Central America, and it is probably, at this point, the most prosperous country in Central America right now. Next to Nicaragua, you've got Honduras, another country that, they got a Wall Street government. In 2009, there was a military coup. They put in, a military government, and now a pro-U.S. free market regime is in there. Honduras is a mess. People are starving. People are miserable. You got Guatemala. There's another country with a pro-U.S. Wall Street government. People are hungry, desperate, poor, fleeing to the United States to get out of there. You can go down the line. Mexico, drug cartels, killing and all that. Nicaragua, compared to all the other countries of Central America, is actually doing quite well. At this point, there's a huge amount of Chinese investment in Nicaragua. I mean, it's a historically quite poor country, but at this point, the rate of employment is pretty high. The World Happiness Index has noted that there's the greatest increase in happiness of any country in the world in 2017 was in Nicaragua because of a lot of their social programs that they were having. The employment rate is very high. In fact, a lot of people from other parts of Central America are actually going to Nicaragua right now. The government is helping people to start their own businesses. So things are going quite well in Nicaragua. The president is Daniel Ortega. He's from the Sandinistas, which is a socialist party. They have a lot of state control over their economy. They're working with China to build up infrastructure, and they're trying to build a new canal that'll counter the Panama Canal. So actually, right now in Nicaragua overall, compared to other parts of that region, things are going pretty well. So what's been happening in the last week? Well, basically, Nicaragua, they have, one of the main things the Sandinistas did, the Sandinistas are the Socialist Party in Nicaragua, the Marxist group. They talk about Christianity. They're not exactly Soviet-style communists. They have their own beliefs. They're Christians. The slogan is Christianity, Socialism, and Solidarity. But anyhow, the Sandinista government, when they first came to power after the 1979 revolution, they created a social security system, basically pensions for older folks, free healthcare clinics, some food subsidies, and they created this system, this social security system. And when they were voted out of power during the 1990s, it was completely, corrupted, privatized, cut off. Just completely destroyed during the 1990s when they had a pro-U.S. government. But then starting in 2006, when the Sandinistas got elected once again, they began increasing and rebuilding the socialist social security network that they created. And the way it works is that, people pay into it while they're working, employers pay into it, and that services are provided to the population. When you get old, you get a pension. When you're 65, you can retire, you get a pension. They set up free healthcare clinics. They have food distributions that are open to people. These services are provided via this social security system that was created by the Sandinistas. Well, they need to change it, and there's debate about how to change the social security system. So at this point, they're talking about they were going to increase the amount that private businesses had to pay into the social security system. And when that happened, that was, even though, overwhelmingly in Nicaragua, that is, public opinion. People feel like those business owners should pay more. A lot of these business owners didn't agree with that, and among university students, who are some of the wealthiest people in the country, or attending these elite universities, there were some protests that broke out. And then what was interesting is that in addition to people who were critical and didn't feel like business owners should have to pay more into the social security system, you saw just a lot of criminal elements, gangs, narco gangs showing up at these protests, looting, breaking of stores and looting and attacking, and a lot of provocative use of firearms. Now, the Sandinista government is very, very popular in Nicaragua. I mean, they've been re-elected. UN observers watch those elections. They're completely legitimate. They're a very popular government. But there are some very, very wealthy Nicaraguans who believe in capitalism and free markets. During the Civil War, they were being backed by the United States to fight against the Sandinistas. And they obviously, don't want businesses to pay more. So all this this unrest broke out. But what was weird was that in addition to folks who were critical of the Social Security reforms, there were a lot of just kind of criminal elements that showed up and were shooting people and breaking things. there was actually a reporter who was killed on Facebook Live when he was covering the protests. He was shot on Facebook Live. That was pretty intense. And there's been a lot of just kind of criminal elements. But that's how these color revolutions work, right? That they're very vague. If you look at the playbook, you look at how things started in Syria, you look at how things went in Libya. It wasn't clear what those protests were about, but pretty soon, terrorists and drug dealers and all kinds of crazy people were involved. And it wasn't really about whatever the protesters thought it was about. Well, the government of Nicaragua has said, look, even though these Social Security reforms are quite popular, the students that are opposed to them, they've met with them. And furthermore, they've pulled the reforms. The reforms that had everyone set up, they backed off of them. They're going to meet with the students. They're going to meet with the opposition. The Catholic Church is on the ground negotiating things. They want peace. And it's kind of scary to see that essentially what's happening in Nicaragua is that there are certain forces that are trying to foment unrest. Now, Ortega and the Sandinistas, they say that this is the CIA. They say that this is the United States, that they're a socialist government, they're anti-imperialist, they're working with China, and this is the USA trying to tear up their country and repeat Libya and Syria all over again. And, I think they're probably right, if you look at it, because this follows the playbook perfectly. What does this have to do? Who cares about, this is minimal reforms in the Social Security law. This is attempting to foment unrest. It follows the perfect playbook. And now we're seeing the same thing in the U.S. press. Nicaragua is a dictatorship, even though the opposition freely organizes and participates in elections and stuff. Oh no, we're hearing the same thing. It's a dictatorship. Oh, it's the same thing they've done in Venezuela. They're trying to tear up this country that has been prosperously building socialism with the help of China. So that's what's going on in Nicaragua. 38 people are dead, but the Catholic Church is trying to negotiate peace. The government is totally willing to meet with the oppositionists. They're trying to get the situation under control. They've pulled this controversial law, even though the majority of the people in Nicaragua support it. Because the opposition has been so violent, they've appeased them and pulled the controversial reforms in the Social Security laws. So let's hope that things in Nicaragua can return to stability and the country can go back to, prosperously trying to build up a socialist planned economy. But anyone who tells you that, oh, people in Nicaragua are poor because of socialism, look throughout Central America. Look at Guatemala. Look at Honduras. Look at Mexico. Look at Belize. Come on. Central America is full of capitalist countries where people are quite miserable. And the Sandinistas, despite whatever else you want to say about them, they have built a very prosperous economy comparatively. They've done wonders for that country economically, and that's why they're so popular, and that's why they keep winning elections.